Hi there. Welcome to episode 264 of Fresh Air at 5. This is a 2-weeker episode because 2 weeks has been full and rich. So much going on. We had a week ago, we had last days of school. Our Wednesday kids and our Tuesday, Thursday kids had their last days. We had award ceremonies, all kinds of stuff like that. Then there was a men's fishing trip that I helped organize for my church. That was super fantastic. Coming back, we had convocation, had year-end barbecue for our K-5s on Wednesday. And you know what? It's report card season. So necessarily it has been full and rich. In this episode, though, I take a listen to Justin Reich out of MIT and the Homework Machine podcast series I started listening to. There's a lot other that I listen to in here. So take a listen for yourself. Thanks for being here and carry on and have yourself a fantastic week. We're getting to the end of the school year. Okay, without further ado, episode 264, Fresh Air at 5.
I'm Angela Kelly Robeck, host of the Empowered Principal Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Brian Carpenter, coming to you every week from Abbotsford, which is about 45 minutes east of Vancouver, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to get some fresh air by walking about my neighborhood, which is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people, the Simath First Nation and Mathwe First Nation. I consume podcast content while I walk, then reflect on this content in an unedited video, which I post on my X, formerly known as Twitter, channel every day. This podcast is the collection of the audio taken from those daily selfie videos over the course of a week, Monday to Friday. So let's jump into my listening and learning this past week. Hey PLN, good morning to you. Hope it finds you well today as it's June 10, 2026. This month of June is trucking along at a fast pace, and it has been so going fast that it's Wednesday and I'm recording my first segment for episode 264 of Fresh Air at 5. Well, here we are, and I was really tired yesterday. Had a busy day doing cricket work with my students. We were making t-shirts and canvas bags, putting decals on those things, and just going over how to do that. It was very full and busy, and when you're the only one in the room that really knows what's going on, that makes the production very slow. Got through it. It was fantastic. We did it, and yes, had a summer session teachers meeting. I'm teaching summer session at my school, so we gathered together to talk about our practice this summer, how we're going to operate and do things. That was really good. All right, this morning as I'm out walking, I listened to the 10-Minute Teacher podcast with Vicki Davis, and she talks with Justin Reich from MIT. He's an associate professor in the Digital Media Lab, and he has a podcast called The Homework Machine. And in this episode, Vicki and Justin talk about AI in the classroom, why there are no best practices. And I would probably put at the end of that, yet. So it's coming. With a growth mindset, we need to pay attention to what is working and what is not working. Justin talks about his experience that he's had by interviewing 120 classroom teachers across the country of the United States to hear their perspectives about AI in the classroom. All the way from, you know what, kids are coming to school hungry, I don't have time for AI, that's way down on my list, to those that have, are in more affluent communities, that yes, we can dig into this, we can talk about it, and we can use AI as a thought partner and other things. His podcast, The Homework Machine, digs into how we use AI to do homework. And He's got an episode there. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm going to. He mentions this episode number 4 of the Homework Machine, where he talks about Busted. It's called Busted, and has interviews with 5 students that have used AI and for doing homework, and the reasons and rationale behind why they do so. The thing about the best practices right now about artificial intelligence is it's so new that there is not best practices yet for how to do that. We have good ideas about how to use it, and places and different teachers have those things, but we need to come together as a community to decide this so that our students are less confused about what's expected as they come to school compared to my classroom, compared to your classroom, things like that. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon. Bye. The last thing for June 10, 2026, I just listened to episode 13 of The Inspired Athlete with Mike Brilla, as he brings us an episode entitled Do It for Joy, Not for Glory, as he talks about the goal of what we do. What's the point of what we're doing? And he works with athletes, and we work with students, and we work with those that are trying to achieve things. And, the doing it for glory has to do with the applause of the people in the arena, the clapping of hands, and the recognition of all those things, as opposed to the daily work of being an athlete or a competitor in whatever area that you are, as a teacher even, of why we do that daily work. So the joy comes from the daily work. And if you enjoy the daily work, then that's the reason to keep on doing the thing. We should have our goals so that we can have something to aim at, so that we can go to competitions and things like that. I'm not saying that that's bad, but what's the real reason? Are we doing it so we can get those gold medals and want to stack those up? Because if we get a silver medal, wow, that's just way off of a gold medal. And we see that in the Olympics sometimes for people that, it's just so disappointing. But if we're doing it because we love being and doing athletics or whatever it is that we're doing, then that is the joy. That's where the joy comes from the everyday things. If we enjoy those things and we know that that's our passion, then that is so significant and important. Mike Brilla talks about Jim Collins and the book, What to Make of a Life, that he has just read. And I also listened to Jim Collins on Evolving with Gratitude podcast with Lainey Rowell. And yes, what do we make of our life? What's the point of it? Is the point of it to get the applause of man? Or is the point of it to go through the process and be really vested in the process of what we are doing, so that we can, know that we have done the best that we can? I'm for the latter, but sometimes the former, the applause of man, is very, very enticing. So as you go today, I hope that you focus on your joy of why you're doing what you're doing. And I'm going to do some of that too myself. And thanks, Mike. Appreciate your thoughts in this area. Take a listen to this episode for yourself. That would be the Inspired Athlete episode 13 to get more than what I have just said. Okay, bye. Hey, PLN, it's June 11, 2026. Good morning to you. I hope this finds you well. Today is our last day of classes for our Fusion students. This is the last day they're going to be in the building this year. They've got exams. Some of them have exams to do beyond this, and we have our convocation ceremony for our adult grads and our grade 12 students coming up on Tuesday. But today is our last day for our grade 6 to grade 10 students in the building, along with my NYC, the newsletter yearbook club crew, as they are the last day that we're going to be doing in-building work in our classrooms with that. So it's the glad and the sad. The glad and the sad, like you're glad that you get to this point of the year because you've been working to this point of the year. You're sad because, well, we have to say goodbye. But then maybe we're glad because we have to say goodbye. But maybe we're sad because, you know what? I'm going to miss actually a few of those students. Not all of them, but a few of them. So, there's the glad and the sad as we go along. This morning, I was sad when I woke up because I was like, I I got to go. But then I was glad when I got out the door to come for my Fresh Air at 5 walk. It's refreshing this morning. I looked at my watch. It said 7 degrees Celsius. It is chilly out here in June. And so it's cool in the morning, but it's going to get nice and warm later today as we go along. All right. This morning I listened to episode 374 of the Easy Ed Tech podcast with Monica Burns, and she brings us 4 chatbot strategies to help teachers get better results with AI. And this, Monica, you said in this episode that if you're advanced, you're more advanced, that this is to help get you beyond the starting point and into the more advanced. I really appreciate your thoughts as you talk to us about things such as assigning a role, asking or replying to the chat, and bringing those things together by replying and having a conversation. Upload to refine and to change, as well as ask me questions, and the ask me questions of the chatbot to get it to provide me with questions that I can ask so that I can get to better results. That's really good. These are things that I talk about when I'm doing coaching with teachers in my Pro D session on artificial intelligence, but it's nice to hear an expert like Monica talk about these things, because as coaches, we can get so much more out from listening to one another. All right, have a fabulous day. We'll talk to you later. Sad and glad. Bye. The last thing for June 11, 2026. Good morning, Jeremy. It's been a bit since I've listened to Why Edify, and this morning I just turned it on and listened to episode 101 of the Why Edify podcast. And the title of this is The Room Changes When You Do. And I was like, what's he going to be talking about? And as I jumped into this episode, Jeremy, this is the 4th week of your Built From Within series, as you looked at some strategies for building yourself and your space around you in your classroom. And what do you bring to that space? This final episode is an outward facing of what is going on with you. And the room changes when you do has to do with something that Epictetus, and I haven't heard of Epictetus, but he's likely a Greek philosopher, talked about how and what we bring to our space, and how our unconsciousness that we bring affects the subconsciousness of the space that we're in. You didn't use those words in your podcast, but that comes to mind, that, what's my demeanor? What do I bring? So the question is, how does my thoughts, actions, and deeds affect the people that are around me? And, I've seen this over the years, that when I show up at school and I'm in a mood, it affects how I teach. I can fake it, but can I really fake it? Can you really, really fake it for, a day if something is going on? Or do you just own it because the students are going to be picking up that something is going on? I've in the past talked to my students about that, Carpenter's not doing great today, and to help them understand that why my energy might not be where it usually is. What do we bring? What are we thinking about? How are we taking care of ourselves? And this isn't an add-on. This isn't to make us feel guilty. This is about just being aware that what I'm bringing comes from within me to my classroom, and get my house in order, and so that I can have a good classroom in order as well. So, looking at my classes and stuff like that recently, is it me that's bringing the mood down because I'm going at a frantic pace? Could be. That's something to think about. So, thank you, Jeremy. I hope this finds you well, and I'm doing great today. Today's going to be another bonkers day, but I guess it's only bonkers if I approach it that it's going to be a bonkers day. There's a lot going on, and it's going to be great. And I'm enthusiastic to see my students today, and it's the sad and the glad, the last day of school in the classroom for our students. We've got exams and things coming up, but that's coming up next week, and convocation next week as well. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye. Hey PLN, it is Monday, June 15, 2026. Good morning to you. Hope this finds you well. The sun is rising behind me. And the weekend is now over. Last week I mentioned that I was going to be supporting and leading a men's fishing trip for our church, and that happened Friday night, Saturday, and yesterday, and we were up at Mile High Resort fishing, and we had a great time with all the guys that came out. As I was traveling up, I was like, okay, I got to listen to a couple podcasts, and there was a podcast that Vicki Davis was mentioned from Justin Reich, as he was on her podcast earlier in this episode of Fresh Air at 5 that I reported on, and I decided to listen to Teach Lab with Justin Reich. So this is a new to me podcast, and you should go check it out because Justin shares from his research, doing research with teachers and students across the countries, and learns and shares what he's learned. He's at MIT and doing this work, and he has a reporter work with him. His name is Jesse Dukes, who is a podcast reporter, and they do a bunch of research to learn a bunch of stuff. And on episode 87 of Teach Lab, which is episode 1 of the homework machine, Jesse Dukes talks about the history of artificial intelligence. And I thought I knew a lot of things, and I did know a lot of things about artificial intelligence and where it's come from and things like that. But he talks about it from a perspective of, buckle up, here we go, and we just have to jump in and we got to solve this problem as it's happening. But the thing about it is that AI is a technology that is developing as it moves, as opposed to a product that we can control and share out at our leisure because we purchased the product for our district. So that's an interesting take on EdTech and how EdTech has previously been rolled out compared to artificial intelligence as EdTech. In episode 1, it's called Buckle Up, Here We Go. They talk about some stories about, when AI showed up on the scene in November 2022 and how fast and long certain districts and places responded and others did not. And even today, I'm seeing today, 3.5 years later, that we still haven't got it together. But that's because it's hard to get together as we work through all the stuff that is going on. So that was episode 1 of the homework machine on Teach Lab, episode 87, for you to take a listen to. Okay, I'll be right back. One more thing for June 15, 2026. On episode 2 of the homework machine, that's episode 88 of Teach Lab with Justin Reich, Jesse Dukes and team talks about the history of artificial intelligence and where it's been, where it's come from, and what we know about it today. This was actually recorded last August. So since then, there's been nearly a year's worth of development and things that have happened with AI as it's been going on. Found it very curious. It's a very entertaining podcast. So if you want an entertaining sounding podcast, something that'll keep your attention because it's curious, it's got music, and it was produced really, really well, different than Fresh Air at 5 here, you should check out the Teach Lab podcast with Justin Reich. All right, so that was episode 2 of the homework machine. There are, I think, 6 or 7 episodes in this series that Justin puts out with Jesse Dukes, and they talk about various aspects of AI in our world as it has been this past year. All right, we'll talk to you later. Thanks, bye. All right, the last thing for June 15, 2026, Ryan and Brian. I listened to episode 167 of Check This Out. Do we got anything to talk about? As you guys bring us, well, what are you going to talk about in this episode? And so I like listening to you guys. You guys make me laugh. I learn stuff. And I appreciate the conversation you have at the beginning of the episode about screen resistance and how LA Unified School District has put in some parameters for no screens for K-2 and, screen time in classrooms as they go through their levels. And that is interesting to hear because maybe in that context, that is so necessary, but that's reactionary. And you talk about that, talk about the need for play, the need for free play, and how, Ryan, you were doing your summer camp about video production for some elementary students with your high school students, mentoring and being team leaders. and helping out to have these kids learn how to make a movie. And sounds exciting, sounds busy, and yes, structure I think is important, but yes, how do you get that unstructure in there so that there can be play and creativity? There's a lot more to this episode that I haven't gotten to. My walk is coming into an end, but boys, I'm going to listen to your episode, finish it, and maybe later this evening or something like that. And yeah, I hope everybody has a good day. I'm working on it. Things are slammed busy for me right now. It's grad tomorrow at our school. Super exciting celebrations. Lots to do for that. Marking to do, exams to do, report cards for too many to do. But hey, that's what we teachers do, is all the things at the end of the year. And then I got summer session after that. So I'm not stopping working, but I will be supporting Chem 11-12 online at my school with a new cohort starting on June 29th. All right, that's all I got for now. Thanks, Jess. Appreciate you. Okay, bye. Hey, PLN, it's June 16, 2026. This is Convocation Ceremony Day at the Abbotsford Virtual School, my school. Pretty excited about this. We have a couple handfuls of grads coming for Convocation. We have more that are not coming to Convocation, and we are putting on a gathering today, including all the senior management and district important people, trustees, parents, teachers at our school, and having a grad ceremony in our gym. Looking forward to that. I get to MC the event. Our team has put on a pretty fantastic looking opportunity with flowers and, dessert afterwards and photo booths and things like that. So it's going to be a good day. Looking forward to it. Weather is going to be cooperative. It's not going to be blazing hot, but it's not going to be wet and rainy either. So we're excited about the weather. All right, this morning as I'm walking, I listened to episode 375 of the Easy Ed Tech podcast with Monica Burns, as she talks with Melinda Galacki, as they talk about coaching strategies for AI conversations with teachers. And how do you have these conversations? How do you get into this and encourage teachers to step into trying this out? If we come at it from a compliance perspective of, are we compliant or not? That's more the rules of it, as opposed to how do we want to have our students thinking as they are working through this assignment or these tasks that is before them. Do we want them to be, where do we want their thinking to go? And that is a great place to frame how we are going to engage with artificial intelligence. We've got our scales. We've talked about, 0 to 5 scales or 4 scales of AI integration, of, AI doing all of the things for you, as opposed to don't touch it at all because it's illegal. That's like a compliance thing and not a thinking thing. Melinda talks about asking teachers about permission to engage in a conversation about coaching them, to give them some suggestions and things like that, as opposed to are they just sharing what they have heard about and what they're reading and looking at. So inviting yourself into a conversation of whether they actually want to get coached and to be open to your suggestions and things like that, or are they just sharing something that they heard on the news or an article they read or something like that. Yes, there's a whole lot going on. Encourage teachers to get into looking at using artificial intelligence in an area of expertise. Domain knowledge, as Justin Reich talks about, is important, because without that domain knowledge, how do we know whether it's doing its job or not? There's more. Take a listen for yourself. Episode 374. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hey, PLN, June 18, 2026. Good morning to you. Trust this finds you well. The sun is rising in front of me, and the day is beautiful. Birds are chirping. Sky is clear, and it could be a toasty one here in Abbotsford today. Currently, we're about 11 degrees Celsius, so it's cool on the beginning of the day. It's very nice, and then it's going to get warmer. All right, this morning I listened to episode 89 of Cheech Lab with Justin Wright. And this is the third episode of the short mini series, The Homework Machine, which is narrated by Jesse Dukes. And Jesse, in this episode called The Duplicitous Nature of Humanity, I don't know what that means, it talks about how using AI, students use AI and submit work can be challenged and caught effectively for cheating by teachers. You know, that's heavy to say that. Why are students doing these things? How are they doing these things? And how are teachers able to know these things? I think the first way is that they need to be aware of what's going on and to be engaged in using tools such as AI for understanding what possible outcomes could come. There is the monitor and question method, where teachers look at, watching students while they work on their devices. And then there is the I'm going to get to your parents before you so you can not defend yourself because I got there first kind of approach for reporting. Okay, so there's a lot in this episode. There's a lot going on, and cheating is just one of the things that can happen with artificial intelligence. I honestly do use ChatGPT and Copilot to assist me in getting there, and sometimes almost there. And depending on what it is, does it matter? Well, see, that's the question. What's the value in what we are creating and sharing and saying that it's ours or that we got some assistance with artificial intelligence? This is about learning. This is about communicating, learning, and understanding. And so as we go through things with students, we see, and I've been talking lately about survival and whatever it takes to survive. Now, another tool in our survival toolkit today is artificial intelligence that can really help us get through stuff with less pain than doing it ourselves. But is that good for learning? Nope, that's not good for learning. All right, I'm back and forth here. I am so back and forth, and I hope that you're listening and enjoying just this challenge in your mind, in your space, with what do we do with artificial intelligence. Take a listen for yourself to episode 3 of The Homework Machine. That is episode 89 of Teach Lab with Justin Reich. Thanks, bye.
I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's like a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find some other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific episode podcast titles and episode numbers in the show notes, which are only a click or swipe away for your learning convenience. I've also started to put together a Spotify playlist of each of the episodes so that you can also take a listen to those specifically, and the link to that playlist is in the show notes. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoyed this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. You can also follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Brian Carr, BRYONCAR, or at Fresh Air at 5. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can be found on the Educational Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day. Get some fresh air before the day is out and take care of yourself because you are worth it.